Good afternoon, doctor.
All right. So I suppose you can hear me because you replied. How was your examination before we are going to start?
It's good. It is good.
Yeah, but I'm not happy, because other students apparently did not do well. So
Yeah.
this is my main concern. So supposed to be when we are doing online, I am expecting that most of you will attend the class.
Yeah.
Uh, Other students may not be attending. Students are students. They may actually turn on their computer, then they leave. That's usually my main concern. That's usually the problem that I may actually have. I'm not accusing anyone, but I suppose now other students, because you see, most of the questions that I ask in the examinations are practical questions, and some of the examples I ask are coming from the examples I mentioned in the class. So if you're listening in my class, there is no reason that you will get low mark. But I'm still talking with the dean. Hopefully, we're going to be allowed to have your makeup examination also. Apparently, there will be quiz two. So that's one thing. But for CE3 or CE4, or in my case, it will be CE2. I do hope that they are going to allow us, no, to have that makeup CA.
Yeah, there is makeup CA for all the subjects.
Really?
Yeah.
So hopefully, no, hopefully you will do well by that time. I
Inshallah.
mean,
Yeah.
the highest who got the highest I think is around 43. Hmm?
The highest is
Uh,
43.
yes, the highest is
Oh.
43, and I'm very happy also, because other students really did well. But there are some students who are lagging behind.
Yeah.
Anyway, so congratulations to those who did well.
Thank you.
And I'm expecting that next examination you will do better, because the topics that we're going to be discussing will be a little bit challenging and difficult. You see, right now we are embarking in understanding personality. So this is one thing. This is a major part of psychology. You see, if you would like to understand a human being, the uniqueness of each individual, you need to understand the personality of that person, and at the same time you should have a very good understanding on your own personality. By the way, you know what happened in the university already. I'm working at home now for 1 week. I will be working at home. I'm at home. See, because I think apparently there was a student last Thursday who got infected of COVID-19 in the university. So for 2 days they were disinfecting, and at the College of Nursing, I think one faculty also was exposed. So that's why for 1 week we're working at home. That will be until Thursday. So we'll be reporting the university by Thursday. That's only for the College of Nursing where I belong to. So if you're wondering where I am, I'm at home right now. Anyway, um, as I was saying, if you really would like to understand an individual, you have to have a very good understanding of their personality, and at the same time your own personality also. You see, this is the wonder of understanding the human persona, the human person. There seems to be a mystery behind. You see, the things that you are showing to other person may not be totally what you are and who you are. It's different. There must be something, there must be a mask that you are trying to wear. This is thing, it's not what you are, but this is the thing that you are projecting. So psychologists study this, and unfortunately, until this time, there is no consensus yet. Because, as I keep on telling you, psychology is a very broad discipline, and often psychologists may not have a consensus. If you really would like to read more about this is very interesting. This is chapter 14 of your required textbook, no? Personality. If you have the textbook, you can read along with me. You can follow through all the examples that I'm giving you here, and at the same time, the topics that I'm sharing with you. All right, moving forward. What is really the personality that we have? This is a very elusive concept. No one can even explain. Psychologists may not actually explain this. We may have an idea about what personality is based on the theory that we are holding, but unfortunately, we do not have a concrete idea on what to make this all about. Personality seems to be a very elusive concept in psychology. So that's why a lot of psychologists are attempting to interpret this. A lot of psychologists are attempting to study this, to understand this. The uniqueness of every human person, every human being. Sometimes personality may change. All of a sudden, there is a switch, and we do not know why. The only thing that we can actually do right now is to understand really some of the established concept in order to make an interpretation of what personality is. And other psychologists really develop very good theory. Some of the psychologists actually call themselves as, you know, select psychologists. They develop grand personality theory. See, that can explain entirely about human beings. And of course, other psychologists may not follow them, like Sigmund Freud. As I mentioned, no, Sigmund Freud could have been followed by so many psychologists, but a lot of people detested this idea also. Likewise, some psychologists who study personality establish grand personality theories, but for some, they may not be acceptable at all. Others have tried to identify personality types and describe why these types behave in certain ways. See, they explain, in fact, so many people keep on writing about personality types. You can say type A personality, type B personality. What is the best personality that a person may actually have? A lot of gurus are actually teaching this. And a lot of self-proclaimed psychologists do teach this also, even though they do not have education in psychology, but yet they proclaim themselves to know a lot about personality. So they write about this. I read some books, you know. Others may be reasonable. Others, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to ask you, which slide are you in?
You do not follow me?
Yeah, we're
It's
still
still
in the
slide number one. I'm very sorry, you know. This is usually
That's
the problem. Okay, I'm still on slide number one. Anyway, yeah. Can you see now?
yes, slide number 2, personality.
I slide yes. I style number one after the after the title, no. So
Yeah,
as I was telling you, there are so many self-proclaimed psychologists telling which type of personality is the best. I believe you have read them also, and a lot of people are actually proclaiming themselves to be psychologists also. You see, they say, "Oh, you are going to understand that person." It's just actually you just you know the psychology that they are applying maybe from general concepts, no? And of course, the topic for this particular class would be an attempt to understand these theories. And of course, we will look into some challenges in describing, and at the same time, since we are psychologists, measuring personality. There are ways to measure that. There are ways to understand personality so that we can somehow change a little bit. We can somewhat modify a little bit, but it will take time. You know, this is the real concept that we psychologists do. So we try to understand a simple human being, a single human being. We try to measure what type of personality do they have. That's why we give them personality tests. Then based from that particular standardized test, we'll be able to come out with our own idea of what that person is, their strengths, their weaknesses, their weak points, their points of improvement. The only thing that we can actually do is to channel this to that particular person. So it's up for them, it's up to them if they really would like to change based on the observations that we conducted. Changing will require time. So that's the thing. You see, as I was telling you a while ago, a lot of people are actually trying to interpret everyone's personality. That's the reason why they are always telling, oh, you just apply reverse psychology. You see? Uh, this is generalized concept as if everybody seems to understand what psychology is. Strange as it is, psychologists even may not understand what psychology is, what personality is, much more. Because this is some mysterious concept in psychology that until now we try to study and we try to grasp. That's why the real concept of what personality is really an elusive concept. Imagine when you go outside, you do not actually look inside that particular person. You try to see only the mask that the person is wearing on that particular day. What is actually the meaning of the mask? You see, the mask is the image that they would like to project. And these are the images that we are trying to see as observers. So every person that we encounter, they are hiding something. And as a person that they interact with, we cannot actually go inside that particular person because it's too difficult and it's very, very difficult. So it appears that every single human being that we are meeting are strange, you see? And sometimes we do not tick. Sometimes we do not jibe. Our personality sometimes clash. That's why there are instances that when we meet that person, we hate them already. Or when we meet that person, we love them already. What's that? You see? So anyway, we'll try to look into this as we go on. Moving forward, as I was trying to mention to you earlier, every person is wearing a mask. As we define in psychology what a mask is and what personality is. Personality is derived from the Latin word persona. It only implies that this persona is a mask that we wear. You see, when you are going to wear something, you can wear anything, you can wear any mask. So that's who you are on that particular time. That is the thing that you are projecting because that's the mask that other people look. That's the mask that other people interpret from you, get from you. So you wear persona. In short, if we're going to look at the definition of personality, this is comprising your consistent ways in which your behavior differs from that of others, especially in your social context. So this is totally what makes you who you are and what you are. And sometimes we do not understand. The only thing that we can actually know will be the thing that at least we know somehow little about ourselves and what the people are telling about you. Because they observe you, because you observe yourself. But there are things that other people may not know about you, and there are other things that you may not know about yourselves. Very strange. That's why a lot of us are actually looking into our potentials because these are something that's hidden from us. These are the things that are not exposed. These are the things that we yet have to discover. The thing that we are only displaying are things that other people are looking from us. And of course, the things that you are aware of. See, that is the meaning. Imagine if you're going to wear something, let's say the face of Jennifer Lopez, a well-known. They're going to look at you that way. They may not know what's inside. So that mask is Jennifer Lopez. So you are projecting also her action. So they may interpret that you are similar to Jennifer Lopez. They may not know who you are, especially the people who have not met you yet, or the people who meet you for the first time. See? That's why, some parties would actually have this, masquerade parties where everyone wears masks, so you may not know one another. So there is a secretiveness. The secrecy of your identity will be hidden. In similar way, in the real world, we are having that. The secrecy of our identity. The only thing that other people will look at us, will see from us, will be the things that we are projecting. That makes us different from them. See, moving forward, these are some of the theories that we are going to look based if we really would like to interpret the theories of personality, the concepts of personality, we're going to look into these psychologists and philosophers who beforehand give the meaning of what personality is. So according to Hobbes, humans are selfish. See, we human beings, by right, are selfish. Everything is I. That's according to Hobbes. And of course, government is required for protection. For Jean-Jacques Rousseau, these are all philosophers. Humans are good. Thomas Hobbes, different. Humans are selfish. Okay? Humans are, by right, good. And government is a corrupting influence. That means to say the government, it speaks about the government and equality. That's what Jean-Jacques Rousseau tried to emphasize in his philosophy. So the government is corrupting the people. And of course, we have Sigmund Freud. Our personality would be derived from natural impulses that are detrimental to society. We are going to look into his various stages of development. And of course, another famous psychologist is Carl Rogers. No, we have our natural impulses that are noble and good. Freud is emphasizing something negative, that is, the impulses are against the society, detrimental to society, which can actually be reflected on, especially stage 2 of his theories of personality, where we're going to talk about discipline, the anal states, while Carl Rogers actually mentioned about the goodness of each individual. No? Our natural impulses and attitudes are geared toward doing the good deeds. That's the thing. So we try to look now on what these people are actually trying to tell. So let's try to view the concept of personality according to Sigmund Freud. Now, he called his theory as psychodynamic approach because there is an intermingling parts of personality, the id, ego, and the superego. Everyone checks one another. All these three structures of personality check one another. Now, Sigmund Freud developed the psychodynamic theory of personality. What is the meaning of this? Psychodynamic theory relates personality to the interplay of conflicting forces within the individual, within us. That's why when we talk about id, ego, and superego, these are the three structures that are interplaying, that are working with one another, checking one another within us. You see? Like when say id will always be looking towards satisfaction of animalistic desires, it will be checked by superego, the voice of conscience. You see? So these are all working together. There is an interplay, that's why we call it psychodynamic, until such time that from now on, every now and then, your personality should always be stabilized in any way possible. The individual may not be aware of this process influencing thought and behavior. No single individual, if you're going to look into the concept of Sigmund Freud, may not know what is these three structures of personality are doing. See, the id, ego, and superego. These three structures are always directing our actions, directing our behaviors, giving impulses. That's why I mentioned earlier about the impulses generated by the interplay of these three structures of personality, which are always negative. According to Sigmund Freud, all these impulses are detrimental to the society, detrimental to other people, detrimental to the community, and sometimes detrimental to yourselves. That is usually the case. Now, Freud's theory had an enormous impact on the 20th century because he was the first, we'll say, psychologist. Now, because you see, as I was telling you, Sigmund Freud is not really a psychologist. Sigmund Freud is a medical doctor. training to become a psychiatrist. Psychology at that time was not yet established. So just because of his concepts, he was able to improve the discipline called psychology. And most of the psychologists, the history of psychology, derived their concepts from his idea. So Sigmund Freud exerted so much impact on the 20th century psychology. Of course, right now, his influence within psychology is waning. That means decreasing because there are other concepts that are actually coming through, like the concepts of positive psychology, so many, no? All right. His ideas are very difficult to test empirically. It's very difficult, really, to test scientifically. We cannot find evidence. All his ideas are conceptual that are difficult to try on, to experiment on, to test. Okay? So many psychologists find nothing useful in the Trojan paradigm. Its tenets are still utilized, of course, by some mental health practitioners. As of now, no, because he was the first one who gave birth to psychoanalysis. He was the psychologist who gave birth to hypnosis. One of the psychologist tool to help patients, particularly to overcome their very difficult and very painful past. See, there are still followers of Sigmund Freud as of this time. Of course, I'm one of them because his theory is really applicable to my understanding of other people's behavior. Moving forward, no, Sigmund Freud was influenced by his friend, psychiatrist Joseph Brewer. No, they work in the same hospital, one way or another. Right? They were trying to study mental health problems, mental illness. No, so Brewer encouraged patients to recall details of traumatic early life experiences. That is usually the basis of the concept developed by Sigmund Freud, the traumatic event, negative experiences. These are all very painful experiences that a person could have experienced in childhood days. That's why most of his theory would always be based on the childhood experiences. Remember, as I told you earlier, Sigmund Freud mentioned that the personality of an individual could have been developed at the age of 7 already. You see? Whatever experience the child may have from 0 to 7 could have already made the personality of a person. And this was definitely influenced by Joseph Brewer. Okay? So moving forward, the therapeutic release of accordingly, so let us try to look into Freud's search for the unconscious. No, the unconscious, the word of the unconscious is, of course, derived from the work of Sigmund Freud. So let us try to look at his work on the unconscious. Okay, the thing that we are not aware of, the things that would always be the depository of good experiences, bad experiences, and traumatic experiences. These are all the things that are seemingly forgotten, yet once in a while it comes influencing our current behavior, influencing our personality. Just like what we could have experienced when we were 5 years old or 6 years old, a very painful experiences could actually influence the experience a person right now. Okay? So the therapeutic release of pent-up emotional tension was called catharsis, according to Sigmund Freud. So there is the concept of catharsis already. The thing that will release the negative feelings, the negative tensions that you could actually feel. And one of the basic example of catharsis is that when you cry, you diffuse your emotional tension. Crying is one of the emotional catharsis that we could actually utilize. You see, why do we cry? The most common reason why we cry because we have negative experience. And this negative experience give tension into our unconscious. Now, the way we diffuse that is to do something. And what's that something? Crying. Crying is one best example of a catharsis. Maybe you sing, maybe you do something different. So that's catharsis, the one that will diffuse your emotional tension. And of course, Sigmund Freud invented the talking cure that eventually evolved into psychoanalysis and into hypnosis. All right. So this talking cure was expanded into a method explaining the working of personality. You see, based on the interplay of the conscious and unconscious internal forces. And that talking cure is otherwise known as psychoanalysis. You see, why do we need psychoanalysis? Because we try to bring our unconscious to the conscious. You see? Dream. So that means to say we try to we try to diffuse the one that you are holding, the tension that you are holding, the trauma that you are holding, the pain that you are holding unconsciously that could have been deposited into your unconscious. So it could be released. It must be released. How do we do that? By doing psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis is only made possible when you talk to the person and when you apply hypnosis anyway. And hypnosis is the one of the procedure that we credit Sigmund Freud with. All right. Any questions so far? Do you follow? You're there?
Yes.
Hello? Okay, I'm just checking now. You may ask question if you would like to ask question. You may interrupt me if you want to say something. No, once in a while I have to check no if you are there or not.
Okay.
So that so that I am sure that you follow me. No. So let's continue on Freud's psychodynamic approach. Now we are still in the realm of the unconscious. According to Sigmund Freud, the unconscious contains memories. These are all experiences that we have in the past. This could not be the current memory. This is the past memory. As long as you could remember, as I mentioned to you earlier, anything that you could have experienced, and how do you derive these experiences? These experiences are coming from the impulses that are picked up by your five senses. Even inside your mother's womb, you could have experienced something already that you could not recall now, of course, but yet these are still in there. These are still making your unconscious mind. These will contain your memories, emotions, your thoughts, including, of course, irrational or socially unacceptable thoughts. Most of the time, we, especially if we belong to specific culture and specific religion, we are always regulating our irrational thoughts. We do not want to divulge that to other people. So in short, we try to keep that by ourselves, because the moment that we are going to divulge that to other people, it may be a taboo. You see? So that's one thing that makes our experience more difficult. So it will be deposited into our unconscious mind, and this will become parts of our negative mind, negative thoughts. And sometimes it really will have to make your personality. It dictates on what kind of behavior you're going to act and you're going to do. These thoughts and feelings will influence definitely our behavior. The actions that we do that can be observed by other people. In any way, when we do psychoanalysis, we reveal this, especially the negative, irrational thoughts that are socially unacceptable thoughts, in order to achieve catharsis and help the patient to overcome, particularly most of the detrimental and dysfunctional impulses. See, there are times that we will not do anything. Why? Maybe this could be attributed to your past experiences. I'll give you a very basic example here. No, your let's say your father does not treat you well because your father is really an authority figure. His word is his command. And as a child, you cannot do anything good. So, on the eyes of your father, you're always bad. I say, of course, you cannot actually say anything to your father because this is a taboo. And most of the time, you're thinking negative against your father, but you cannot actually carry it out because these are all irrational. So, what happens next? When you grow old, you can see your father in any authority figure that you are going to meet. Maybe the dean, maybe anyone else. And you are going to be influenced by these negative experiences that you could actually have. You may become shy. You may not be outgoing because you cannot say anything. Why? Because when you were young, your father would always check on you. Your father would always say, don't say anything. So when you are going to be old, just like what we do right now, we feel so ashamed and so shy when we meet someone older than we do because we attribute that that person could be similar to our father. This is the one that can influence our personality and our behavior, our previous experiences, the experiences that we have deposited in our unconscious that we have when we were young. And this will always be overcome, of course, when we conduct psychoanalysis. I will explain to you more about this as we go. And also we try to understand some concepts or the theories of personality that I'm trying to discuss with you. Moving forward, no? Uh, Freud noticed that some patients were less seriously affected by early childhood traumas than others. The way we deal with childhood traumas will be different from one another. It will be varied from one another. It depends on what type of approach you're going to deal, on what type of experiences that you have after your negative experiences. You see? It depends on how you're going to deal with it. Just like, for instance, no, you have the ability to, you can easily cast away some of the generated anxiety that you may have experiences. You can easily cast this out because you see you are more flexible as you go. That's why the way we deal with our negative experiences may be varied and may be different from one another. Just because of that, no? So Freud developed a hypothesis for the excessive anxiety. By the way, anxiety is developed when there is a conflict between id and superego. As I was telling you, in the theories of personality that we know earlier, especially when we discuss about his stages of development and human development, we know for a fact that there are three structures of the personality, that is id, ego, and superego. You see, id is always catering to our animalistic desire, irrational thoughts, unregulated thoughts. This is what the id does. It will always cater to your pleasure. Pleasure, it adheres to pleasure principle. This will be checked by superego. Okay? Superego is motivated by your religion, by morality, among others. the one that your idea is about right and wrong, it will check this. Now, what happens to the third structure of personality? That is, the orientation is on reality, the ego. The ego is confused. The ego is under tension, and that tension is actually what we call as anxiety. Now, there are so many ways in dealing with anxiety. That's why every single person may be different, because every single person utilize various approaches, which we call defense mechanism, in order to diffuse your anxiety. Others may manifest this latently, others may manifest this excessively, to the extent that other people may develop pathologic condition. In that case, anxiety disorders. The level of anxiety disorders would actually be very high, severe to panic attack, right? So moving forward, he proposed that excessive anxiety might be due to the following: lack of sexual gratification, that is really associated with it, traumatic experiences from your childhood experiences. As I mentioned to you earlier, these are all associated with your id. It caters to pleasure principle. It caters to what you really want, what you really desire without a break. You know, what I mean? You need to do anything that your id asks you to do. Like for instance, when you go to the department store, say buy, eat, so something. These are all gratification. When you say sexual gratification, these are all gratification pertaining to all the desires that we may have. Not necessarily sexual in characteristic, but these are all our desires. Every single person do have their own desires. The desire to have a new phone, the desire to have a new car, the desire to have a good grade. These are all manifested latently in your id. Sigmund Freud stood by the seduction hypothesis for a number of years. Of course, a lot of people did not take this. No, a lot of psychologists didn't take this, but of course stayed on as a part of it. No, constructing the evidence for sexual abuse from patients' dream reports. Slip of the tongue is always very common, and other indirect evidence. A slip of the tongue, if you're familiar with, you know, your friends would actually talk to you. You see, I have a secret. See? And your friend tells the secret. Yeah, Aya said, okay, I will listen to your secret and trust me. I will not tell anyone. Of course, a friend of Aya will tell the secret. Yeah, one way or another, maybe months had gone by, or maybe years had gone by. I have tried to let's say honor her promise. One way or another, as he tries to communicate with other people, the secret comes out unconsciously. See, the secret comes out unconsciously. This is the slip of the tongue. Anything that you say will not be controlled, because your unconscious will always try to control what you're trying to say. So the secret gone, the secret is gone in public. That's why we keep on telling this is always associated with Sigmund Freud. Secrets are meant to be divulged. There are no secrets that cannot be divulged. Secrets can always be revealed in time. And this is always associated with Sigmund Freud because of his idea on the slips of the tongue. No? Some patients did not remember this event, of course, because these are always in the realm of the unconscious. You could not remember what you had in your unconscious. In fact, you could not even redeem it unwillingly. But it comes when it's triggered by something else. But you could not recall. No one can recall any memory that could have been deposited in the unconscious. But it comes automatically when it is triggered by similar experience, by a common experience or a triggered experience, as we call it. Okay? Freud insisted that his interpretations, of course, were correct. Somehow it's correct because there are so many phenomena that we have today that cannot be explained properly by any empirical evidence. Just like what I'm telling you right now here. No, people could not remember things that are deposited in the unconscious. That really is the process. That really is the reality. He later abandoned the seduction hypothesis because it would not hold water and it's not good, you know. And a lot of psychologists during that time and even medical doctors during that time did not take him seriously because this is somewhat new and this is somewhat revolutionary. As I told you, Sigmund Freud was the first person who developed the theory of personality. No, so a lot of people will look at him. No, and of course they do not want to follow his absurd claims. No, so he later abandoned the seduction hypothesis, claiming that his patients had misled him. All right. He claimed that his patients had sexual fantasies. Sexual fantasies are always associated with Sigmund Freud's theory as young children and never came. Now, sexual fantasies, as I mentioned to you, I really would like to clarify this. This would be in the name of your irrational thoughts. That's why he mentioned about irrational thoughts. That's why he mentioned about it, irrational thoughts. No, that could not always be welcomed by any single person. No, as young children and never came to terms with their anxiety and guilt. Another very important concept that Sigmund Freud actually developed is the concept of the Oedipus complex. What is the meaning of this in the Oedipus complex? No? Children wish to have relationship with their opposite sex parent, but realize that is of course forbidden. That's irrational thought, and that's not actually good. Based solely on an ancient play by Sophocles in which the protagonist unknowingly murders his father and marries his mother unknowingly. You know, if you're going to look at the a story of Oedipus, you will appreciate this story. So during the time, I really would like you to read more about Oedipus complex, no? Because this is very interesting, and the play by Sophocles was read a lot by Sigmund Freud, and he derived some of his theory based from this. No, and the Oedipus complex actually was developed. Let me put it simply like this: the Oedipus complex is the attraction of the son, the male son, to the mother. They are making the father to be a rival. That is actually the main concept of the Oedipus complex. No, there is a rivalry between the father and the child for the attention of the mother. That's the thing. Like many other constructs proposed by Freud, Oedipus complex lacks reliable empirical evidence, and Oedipus complex was not taken seriously by psychologists and other experts during his time, especially psychiatrists like him. And of course, there is really a very big problem in on how Sigmund Freud actually would try to come out with his results, come out with his evidences, and he could not always distinguish results from evidence. Evidence and results are two different things, and somewhat with all his writings, evidence would always be interchanged with results. In fact, when he started writing his book, when he published his book, that was a very big flop actually on the interpretation of dreams. He really tried to interpret dreams. He really tried to find out what could be the meaning of dreams, as I mentioned earlier. And then, of course, he tried to analyze the dream of any single person. He tried to give meaning on the dream of anybody. And of course, the meaning could be subjective. That's why his book is a plot. No, if you really would like to read more, his book is on the interpretation of dreams. He has a book like that. That's the biggest plot that he ever did. Sigmund Freud, on the other hand, developed a framework for the development of personality during childhood and adolescence. I really would like to emphasize this. No, Sigmund Freud really is holding the concept that the personality of a person is fully developed at the age of 6, from 1 to 6. That means to say 7 is already, if you reach 7, there is no chance for you to improve. And of course, this is contradicted by other psychologists, especially a student, Eric Erikson. No? Now, it's a progression of conflicts about channeling your sexual energy. That's why, as I mentioned to you, he always attribute that to the sexual energy to unconscious process. Moving forward, now, Sigmund Freud related the development to the changing nature of the individual's psychosexual interest and pleasure. See, now remember this psychosexual. His theory is otherwise known as psychodynamic and psychosexual theory. This was contradicted eventually by his student, Eric Erikson, when Eric Erikson mentioned about psychosocial theory of personality or theory of development. So his focus is on sexual orientation. Eric Erikson focused more on social orientation. No? So psychosexual interest and pleasure, all the strong and pleasurable sensations of excitement and that arise from stimulation of the brain. No? He believed that managing this aspect of development influenced nearly all aspects of personality, the things that we are holding on. It's a taboo when it comes out. You know, as a person also, I may like someone, but I cannot say to my wife that I like that someone, or else I'm dead. That is actually the meaning. Better I will hold that myself. Because the moment that I'm going to say it, it's a taboo. It's not acceptable. See? So that's the thing. Now, Sigmund Freud proposed the existence of what we call as the libido. This is our psychosexual energy, in short, desire. Now, there is some meaning. There are so many meanings of desires. Every single person has desire, not only sexual desire. We desire to do one thing. And these are all rechanneled in a part of personality that we call now as id. Because id is always manifested in the satisfaction of what we want. It's pleasure oriented. I am going to give you an example. When you go to the department store and you really want, you see something, maybe the handphone, the new model of a handphone. Immediately when you saw that, you desire it. You want it. Then you desire it. This desire is an unconscious process. This desire is trying to tell you what to do next. The desire will tell you, get money. Get money that you have, all the money that you have, and buy that. What are you going to do? There are two things. Either you resist that desire or you give in to that desire. Now, when you are going to resist on that desire, there is another part of personality that comes in. And what is that? That is your superego. The superego says, hey, do not buy that cell phone because that's costly. You do not have any allowance for the whole month if you're going to buy that. So you resist that desire, unconscious comes in. This is the superego comes in, checking your id. Therefore, the id will calm down, and the id will not resist anymore. So your irrational thoughts becomes rational, and the ego will say, "Anyway, I will not buy that because I don't have money." Reason prevails. That is the thing. But from time to time, every single day, we are on this unconscious satisfaction of our desire. See? And of course, we try to gratify this desire. And the gratification of these desires would always be coming, would always be dictating our behaviors all throughout lifespan. And this desire will change every single day. The desire that we have when we were children will be different from the desire that we have now. When we will become adult, it will be different. So there will be a change as you grow. But nevertheless, the desire that we have controls the behavior that we show. And this is very significant in Sigmund Freud's theory of personality. Okay? Accordingly, Sigmund Freud mentioned about 5 stages of his development in its own way for seeking gratification. I mentioned to you earlier about this in human development. In order, we have oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. And in every single stage of human development, there is a desire that you have to do. There is a task that you have to do. There is a need to gratify what you need to do during that time. What happens is that when we go and when you go to the next stage, and the desire that you have on that particular stage is not satisfied, is not gratified, then you may develop a block development. You may develop what we call as fixation. Your development is blocked. Your development is prevented. Your development is stunted. You are fixated. That is the meaning of this. You see? So you will be fixated one way or another. And looking into what we discussed earlier, the only way to overcome this is to apply your token cure and to apply psychoanalysis. That is the thing. Yeah. So hopefully in the next topic that we are going to have, we will tackle already psychotherapy and counseling. I'll be able to teach you some process of doing this. Although there will be no laboratory, but I'm going to teach you how to do it. The process of doing psychoanalysis anyway. So let's try to review the different stages of development where we focus on gratification of the desire on every stage. I really would like to focus this, no? So every stage seek gratification. If that particular stage is not gratified, then you will be fixated. That means to say, there are things that you need to satisfy when you grow on the next stage, right? So let's try to go on oral stage. This is the first stage of your life, from 0 to 1.5 years of age, 0 to 18 months. Yeah. So we know that an infant, we call them infant because a newborn is an infant, derives gratification or pleasure from the stimulation of the mouth. That's why we call it oral states. The focus of gratification will be the mouth, okay? Particularly from taking food, breastfeeding, and as well as oral contact. No? Now what happens that there will be oral fixation that is there when the gratification of what you need from your mouth will not be there. So there will be a problem eventually. You may have a problem in eating, drinking, substance use, or overdependence to others. As I was discussing when we were tackling about human development, you see, when a child cries, there are only two things. There are only two reasons that you can actually derive from that particular situation. When a child cries, either the child is hungry or the child is wet. So you go and check. If the child is not wet, then the child is hungry. So you have to feed the child. But if you do not know anything, if you do not know anything, although the child keeps on crying, then what happens that you did not gratify what the child, what an infant desires. Okay? For one time, it's okay. But this will be, if this will be consistent, then you are going to develop a problem. So your mouth is not gratified. Your desires would not be, were not gratified. So what happens? What do you expect to happen when you will become adolescent like you? When you will become adult, you tend to gratify that unconsciously, of course. So I notice if you go to a party, there are people who keep on collecting so much food, although they know for a fact that they could not eat that food, the one that they place on their plate. The people who smoke a lot, the people who drink a lot, the people who engage in drug addiction, gossiping, among others. You see? So this is the thing. Moving forward, on the anal stage, this is either one year or 1.5 years to 3 years of age. There is an intense psychosexual pleasure derived from the stimulation of the anal sphincter that controls elimination. You control your relation related to toilet training, which usually occurs at this stage. No? So you eliminate. Elimination and the stimulation of the anal sphincter is always associated to discipline. That's the reason why I'm telling you the impulses created in every stage of development would always be detrimental to people. You know why? Because we are always associating the stages of development on the negative behavior that the child may have developed. You see, if you have not trained properly the child, what happens next? See, anal fixation might involve problems in the future with extreme stinginess or need to maintain strict order. Or the opposite is true, and the person is very wasteful, very messy, and violative of discipline. These are the people who like to violate rules and regulations. Imagine this, no? At the age of 3, the child already can go to the toilet to urinate, can go to the toilet to defecate, to move their bowels, because assuming the control. But what other parents are doing are different. On the opposite. Other people at the age of 3 or the age of 4, they just actually allow the person, the child to wear diapers. It's a bad signal, the signal that says it's okay to urinate everywhere. It's okay to pee everywhere. That's not supposed to be okay, according to the concept of Sigmund Freud. No? Because we tolerate the child to do anything that they want. That is one thing. Moving forward, no? Let's proceed and with the phallic stage, about 3 to 6 years of age. Supposedly, assumingly, the personality of an individual could have been fully developed at this stage, where psychosexual pleasure derives from the stimulation of the genitals, and the child is attracted to the opposite sex parent, wherein Oedipus complex and Electra complex could have been prevalent to this stage. A boy is attracted to the mother and treating the father as a rival. In the case of Electra complex, a girl is attracted to the father and taking the mother as the rival. Now, the problem will be here. If we do not allow children to discover what they have and who they are, there will be phallic fixation. Phallic fixation involves a fear of being castrated because sometimes, boys would not want to lose what they have, and of course for the girls, there will always be penis envy during the time. Because why is it that he has that? Because children are children. They make questions, especially when they play. They try to explore. They'll try to identify who they are. I am a boy and you are a girl. You try to, I am going to play gun and you're going to play doll. You see? But of course, we're going to be friends. That is actually what we establish in phallic states. So the gender identity already could actually be fully developed during that time. All right. Any questions so far?
No, doctor.
Would you like to take a break or shall we continue?
I think we should continue.
All right. Yes, for about 15 more minutes, maybe. Aya and Jana are already typing their attendance. Hi, Jana. Muhammad also. Muhammad, you're there, just checking. Said, you're there?
Yes, doctor,
Reply.
I'm here.
Okay. Aya is always replying. Oh, Said is replying. Yes, okay. I hope you're listening, no? I hope you're there. Do you follow? You have any questions so far? Can you relate? Do you have any suggestion? Do you have any comment on what we are tackling right now? You see, I really would like you to understand this. Right now, we are focusing on Sigmund Freud because his concept is really a very good concept that attempts to interpret and explain the causes of our behavior now. After all, this is the very focus of what we are trying to study now. We try to understand what we have based on our experiences in the past. We try to understand who we are. Now, when we are going to treat your patient, it's similar way. You do not just actually treat the patient condition or the patient. You have to look into the history. In psychology, we have to look at that also. We are looking into the history of the person as much as they could remember. Because the history, the experiences that they have would definitely be different from our experiences. That's why a lot of people are actually telling. Sometimes they quarrel, or say, that problem is very simple. Especially when someone approaches them, approaches you, someone approaches you. No, when I'm going to take this problem, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But of course, that particular person may be different, may not actually adapt what you are trying to suggest. Why? Because they are different from what you are. That makes us unique. The way the way we solve problem will be different from one another. The way we drive car will be different from one another. We know the principle, but the way we manage and drive car will be different. The way we manage our people will be different. Other people may not actually be bothered at all, but other people are truly bothered by one pimples in their face. That's the thing. The way we look at problems would actually be different, and the way we handle the situations would be very different. That's why our concepts, the concepts of psychology that we are trying to study, if we are going to apply this with our lives as of now, must be essential in trying to explain the current behavior of our patients to be. So that's the thing. So moving forward, we'll try to continue on the fifth stage of development, according to Sigmund Freud, is the latent states or the latent period or period of latency or latency states, about 6 years to adolescence, wherein the child suppresses already their psychosexual interests. See, in the phallic, it's free flowing. They don't care. They are exploring. Boys explore, girls explore. But as they grow, From 6 years to adolescence, it will be different, where the person, I may not call that person a child anymore because they will go until adolescence. The person may suppress this desire. The person may suppress their interest because the morality comes into play already. Because if they are going to explain that to the child, to the parents, that may not be acceptable, and it becomes irrational. So they hold it, they suppress it, and this suppression of interest and desires will be deposited in the unconscious. No? And what happens next is that play and interaction is mostly with same-sex peers during this time because they are not anymore interested with the opposite gender. They would always look and play with the gender of their own. Boys will play with boys and girls will play with girls. Under no circumstances that boy will play with girls and the other way around because they are already trying to stabilize their psychosexual interests. They suppress it because their parents and the cultures would actually dictate that this is not allowable and this is irrational. Better you suppress it much more. If a boy is seen playing what he has, is immediately reprimanded by parents and they may not understand. So that's usually the problem that they have. Now, there is evidence that the Latin period is a cultural artifact. Why cultural artifact? Because we are trying to establish our morality and our culture during this time. We inculcate what we believe in as a part of our society. Children in some non-industrial societies don't experience latency actually. But children here, especially in UAE and other countries, really, culture will actually play will play hard. You see, I am a religious person also. I'm a Catholic, so we have a belief system. So we actually used to believe what our priests and religious leaders would tell us to do during that particular time, do's and don'ts. So that's why we can actually call this period of development according to Sigmund Freud as a cultural artifact. No? Now, the last stage is adolescence, is genital stage. This is adolescent and beyond. The last stage, actually, up to old age. No? The individual has strong sexual interest in other people, desires in other people. I'm always trying to emphasize this because we call this theory as psychosexual. No? Now, if the other stages were completed successfully, there is no fixation. The primary psychosexual satisfaction is gained, and so on and so forth. Fixation in an earlier period of development means little libido. Now, everything is going to be materialized during this stage because one single individual will try to look for another partner, wherein you are going to raise your own family. See? During this time, you have your niche already, you know what you want already, and you are going to build your own family. So everything, all your irrational thoughts, all your irrational desires would always be realized during this time. All right? Now, let us try to evaluate the stages of development according to Sigmund Freud. As I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to emphasize that a lot of psychologists do not want the idea of Sigmund Freud. Why? Because they are difficult to test empirically, and research on this model has been inconclusive, difficult to duplicate, because every single individual may actually have different experiences, may have different interpretation, may have different expression of the behavior. And the way they are expressing would be different from one another. The way they store information would be different from one another. Now, the attributes of those fixated at certain stages seem to correlate there is no evidence that originate in difficulties of those stages. So we cannot associate the difficulty that a person actually could have experienced at stage one or oral stage or anal stage. We just simply assume, but we cannot find an empirical evidence. It's very difficult. Actually, psychology is very difficult to prove in any way, somehow, you know. Moving forward, as I mentioned to you, I will stop here, no? I'll try to mention about this one, no? If you're going to study the work of Sigmund Freud, it revolves around the structures of personality. These three structures of personality: the id, ego, and superego. What does it mean by this? No, the id is our biological drives attributed to gratification, immediate gratification, as I was telling you earlier. This is the one that dictates you do this, do this, do this, do this without care and consideration of other things. This is always looking to the satisfaction of pleasure. It operates on pleasure principle, while the ego is rational, negotiating, and decision-making part of personality, the one that operates here and now, the one that is seen now. If you're going to look at the three types or three structures of personality, ego is the one that is always shown. Id and superego are always operating in the unconscious that cannot be shown. Superego internalize the values and rules that we receive from our parents and society, moral. You see? This is the one that checks the id. Its only purpose is to check the id. The id's only purpose is to drive on immediate gratification. The ego is the one that is projected on the world. This is the one associated with your persona. This is the one that is always dictating or that is always shown as a part of your behavior. A decision maker, the executive, the one that executes, the one that negotiates, the one that makes decision, the man that tells you what to do. But of course, this is always in conflict. This is always experiencing tension. You know why? Because once that id is being checked by superego, the ego is going to be tense. And how do this tension express? By showing anxiety. You see? When there is anxiety, that means to say id and superego are always in conflict. All right? Any questions so far?
No, thank you, doctor.
You're tired? You have a class after this?
No, we don't have.
All right. Shall we call it a day today?
What?
Shall we call it today? If you have any question, you would like to say something?
No,
You would
thank you
like
so
to
much.
ask? So our next meeting will be Thursday. I will be Wednesday, right?
There is no Wednesday because we are having CN.
You still have to say, hey, why?
Yeah, because they reschedule it because of nursing. They have most of them corona, so that's why.
No, there is only one Corona.
I don't
And
know.
that's my...
I don't know why they reschedule it. I think
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they
yeah.
need to sanitize it or whatever.
Exactly. This is what I'm telling you. That's why I'm working at home.
Oh,
Because one student,
yeah,
one of our student, fourth year student, got a corona already, coronavirus.
yeah.
That was Thursday. Thursday positive, of course, the protocol. No, we have to clean, and of course, a lot of faculty members have been exposed. Thank God I'm not exposed.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm working at home, nevertheless.
That's better.
So there is no class on Wednesday. Are you sure about that?
Yeah,
What
because
time?
we're having
What time
CA.
is your class? What time is your CA on Wednesday?
It's at 11. It's on
Yeah.
site. It's not online.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, UMS. Anyway, I'll try to wait for whatever Miss Karen will tell us. No.
Mhm.
Anyway, we are law-abiding citizens. We follow what they want us to do. Yeah. So in consideration, please read chapter 14. It is in the book, no?
Okay.
All right. Read
Read
chapter
questions
14.
from the book?
Maybe from the book also.
Why?
Yeah, I give you free book. Yeah, I'm taking from the book. Therefore, we have to read from the book
خلاص إن
also.
شاء الله we will read them from the PowerPoint.
Yeah, from the PowerPoint and the book, please. And of
The
course,
book?
you
Okay.
listen to me. You listen to me also. Yeah.
Yes, of course we will listen to you. But for the
Yeah.
CA, please listen to us.
Let's negotiate later on. No.
Okay.
Anyway,
Thank you,
yes,
doctor.
I'm willing to help you by all means, whatever I can.
Thank you so
Anyway,
much, doctor.
have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, doctor. Take care. Bye bye.